madera.gov/live. Members of the public may comment on agenda items at the meeting or remotely through an electronic meeting via phone by dialing 669-900-6833. Enter ID #872-9862-0717. Comments will also be accepted via email at City Council public comment at madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. The city will observe the Madera County Public Health Department physical distancing recommendations. This may limit seating at the council chamber. However, the city will have seating available in the foyer. All persons visiting city facilities shall observe health and safety protocols. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Garcia.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas.
I'm here.
Councilmember Gallegos.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Montes.
Here.
And Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Thank you, Alicia. Would you all please rise for the invocation led by Sammy Neely, Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church.
Let us bow our heads. Father, we come before you tonight, Father, first thanking you, Father, for the beautiful weather that you have allowed us to witness. Thank you for the clearing of our skies, Father, from the smoke. We ask that you look upon this meeting, Father, give us the exhilarance to conduct this meeting, Father, in an orderly fashion. Let us do it in a fashion that's representative of this community. We ask that you look upon our mayor, look upon the council members, look upon all the officials in attendance tonight. Father, we just thank you and praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Would you all remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Artemio Villegas?
Ready to salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic which we stand, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to the. Do we have any items that have to be corrected or changed by my colleagues? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
As presented.
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilmember Gallegos. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Montes.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas.
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. We now move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold a comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is open. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Alicia, do we have any public comment?
Mayor, I have no written public comment and there's no public comment via Zoom. I believe we have someone in the audience.
Pásale, Ramón.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Many times I noticed that people coming here to complain, many complaints. Today I'm not coming to do any complaints. I come in to thank you for your service. I know that you are serving because you really care for the city. Your compensation is very low. If you are working this hard, it's because you care for the city. So lately I noticed that Madera is doing great, moving in the right direction. The Unified School District just announced a couple of days ago that the high school students became the national champions in science, in veterinary. all of you may already know that a couple of years ago, our high school students were also the world champions in robotics. So I think that we're moving really good one. So in general, what I want to say is that we need the support of the council. We need the council to be united, working really, really nicely in harmony to really care for the issues of the city. We know that each one of us may share ideas of a particular party. Those parties sometimes divide us. I believe that the reason that the municipal elections are not partisan is because the things that the city council can really do is they don't have parties. So those are the issues of the party. So if we concentrate on issues that will help our students, that will help our youth in jobs, in harmony, Madera is gonna be doing great. I believe that Madera is really moving really good right now. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Are there any more public comments? We will now close public comment and move on to, there are no written communications. We will now move on to presentations from the Department of Public Health. I believe, Sarah, you're on the Zoom.
Good evening. Glad to be with you again this evening. In COVID, we're seeing a case rate that is largely at a plateau. We're seeing a lot of movement, though, between in specific age groups that I'd like to highlight. In particular, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a marked increase in case rate among individuals aged 30 to 39. We've also seen an increased case rate among children aged 5 to 17, but not to the same degree as that other group. We're seeing a decline, though, a significant decline in cases among individuals aged 75 and up. But when taken as a whole, it's a plateau. And we have plateaued in what used to be called the purple tier, and well above the cutoff of what would have brought us down underneath that. So our case rate is 28.6. Our positivity rate is at 7.1%. And our testing rate is still pretty high at just under 900 tests per day. Our vaccinations are moving forward. Those who are fully vaccinated are at 53.6%, partially vaccinated at 61.6%, partial being, of course, 1 dose if it was a 2-dose vaccine. And City of Madera is still realizing a higher than average vaccination rate when looking at the 1-dose qualification. So both area A and C are right around 69 to 70% of 1 dose of vaccination. I wanted to highlight also that we're seeing an increase again in hospitalizations, which is very concerning. We did report 4 additional deaths due to COVID this last week, bringing our total to 291. And in the last few days, we have seen an uptick in hospitalizations, and that's being seen not just in the hospitals in Madera County, but across the Central Valley. And our hospitals are also experiencing some significant shortages with regards to very routine supplies. And are monitoring shipments from other countries, from China, to be able to meet those needs. And this is something that is being seen in California and in other places as well. So we're now at, for the entire county, the 3-day average is about 23 hospitalizations for COVID. Of course, it bounces up and down. That's why we look at an average, and that is a significant increase. I'll just touch briefly on what's happening with pediatric vaccinations. I know people have been waiting for those announcements. It does have several steps. FDA has provided the emergency use authorization, and CDC has approved it. So we are basically in the waiting game for when it is available on the My Turn system, so that as vaccinations are provided, the registry can be updated. That I'm told by CDPH will happen at 7 p.m. tonight, so less than an hour away. People will start to be able to log on and register children age 5 to 11 for COVID vaccination. We have received a lot of questions and concerns with regards to the vaccine, and I just want to address a few key important things to know. The one side effect that has really raised more alarms than anything else is the possible risk of myocarditis and pericarditis, and that's inflammation of the heart or surrounding the heart. And in looking at the data, we haven't, and Madera, done the exhaustive study of all of the different data that related to that. But in looking at several studies, we have noted, and CDC also confirms, that there are side effects and risks related to illness of COVID, infection due to COVID, that really statistically far outweigh the risks of side effects from the vaccination. And included in that list is myocarditis. So the studies that we looked at the possibility of myocarditis as a result of the vaccine being as little as 10 times less than an actual infection. So if parents are concerned about their child having myocarditis in the time of COVID, then it's actually a better step to get the vaccine to prevent infection, because it would be more likely that they would get myocarditis from infection than from vaccine. And I'm available for any questions that people might have.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Sarah today? No? Any members of the public? Well, thank you again, Sarah. Thank you very much for your educational benefit that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Now, if I could have Sergeant Thomas Burns at the podium. Chief, could you also join us? We have a certificate of recognition to Sergeant Thomas Burns in appreciation and recognition for over 27 years of excellent service to this community and dedication to the Madera Police Department. Best of luck to you on your retirement. Chief, would you like to say something? Sure.
So thank you for this wonderful recognition for Sergeant Burns. He's been with the organization for 27 years, started out in dispatch. It's kind of a pattern that follows with our organization. We train from within. Officer Silas there started out in dispatch, and he just got off of FTO. So we're really proud of that. But for 27 years, I'm gonna call you Tom now. Sergeant Burns has just been one of those guys that you could depend on, was always there for the organization, ran our motor unit, probably gave numerous people here tickets. So he is retired now, so you can get him back if you want. We're certainly going to miss Tom and everything that he's given to the community and to the department. The positive thing is we get to keep the better of the Burns on at the PD, his wife, who runs our property and evidence room. It is a sad day, and one for a law enforcement officer to do 27 years is really unheard of. And you made it, and thank you, and the community thanks you. And you're going to be missed. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Madera was my hometown. So when I went to the academy, I had no intention of ever going to work anywhere else. Worked through the thick and thin here in Madera, the times when, you know, we were training people faster and they were moving out faster than they could stay here. But we seem to have hopefully brought an end to that trend. So it was an honor to serve the city of Madera. And now it's on to the next chapter. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to item B, the consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar, and it will be considered separately. Do we have any comments from my colleagues on the consent calendar? Do we have any members of the public wanting to speak on this item? I will now ask for discussion from my colleagues or a motion.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Gallegos, second by Mr. Villegas, I believe.
Yes.
Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Montes.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
So we will skip the next item because we're actually doing pretty good on time. We'll come back to item C, public hearing. It'll be at 7 because it has to be posted and discussed at 7. Is that correct, Alicia?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay.
7 p.m.
So we'll move on to item D, petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. Item D1. I believe, Mr. Watson, you have this item? Chief?
Yep, I'm here, Mr. Mayor. Apologize for my attire and not being there. I'm out of town on business, but give me a second to share my screen as I'm not used to doing it from a laptop. It's opening, so give me 1 second. Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, Chief Watson here with the City Fire Department, discuss item D1. This is the purchase agreement of a Rosenbauer Type 1 custom fire engine and fiscal year budget amendment for 21-22. The city has been attempting to make improvements to its firehouses and equipment, such as new Station 58, including ladder truck 58, which was also a Rosenbauer piece of equipment that was done through the same process. Parking lot rehabs at Station 56 and 57 were long overdue, but it was great they got done and they look terrific. Purchase of the home on 4th Street for future expansion of Station 56. Relocation of the ambulance service to allow us to bring the antique fire engines home to Madera, which is in process. And speaking with Ted Pistaresi yesterday, it seems to be moving forward and there should be no issues with us transferring those vehicles on January 1st. The city was also able to purchase an all-terrain vehicle, so we were able to access the river for medical emergencies and fires. And starting in January, the citizens will see increased fire personnel at Station 56, going from 3 on duty to 4 on duty a day. Just kind of a quick overview, the city maintains a fleet of engines. The most recent engine that was purchased was done in 2018. Staff has identified the need to replace a 1990 fire engine, which is the oldest frontline engine, which will make the oldest frontline engine become a reserve. The standard in the fire service is frontline service for an engine is usually 15 years. They are also placed on reserve status for additional 15 years, which brings a total life to a fire engine 20 years in the fire service. Here's the current age of the equipment. You can see that engine 56 is a 2016, which was the most recent engine purchased. And then engine 656, which is a smaller Type 6 fire engine that also, can get into tight spaces and then the all-terrain vehicle. At Station 57, you have engine 57, which that engine's a 2008, currently frontline, and if approved, would become a reserve once this new engine went into service. The engine we're talking about tonight is engine 257 to be replaced. It's a 1990, so obviously well above the 20-year lifespan of a fire engine. And then our newest vehicle to the fire fleet is obviously Ladder Truck 58, which is a beautiful vehicle. Also, like I said earlier, a Rosenbauer, which was purchased through this same process. And then engine 258 is a reserve. It's a 2002. So that one's right on the cusp of also becoming time to replace. But, first off, we got to focus on the oldest 1990 first. Here's a picture of current engine 257, which has served the city well. It's a Grumman fire engine, which they no longer build fire apparatus. And you can see we just took this picture in front of City Hall the other day. Does the city need a new engine? Some may ask. The answer is yes. 32 years of service is a long time for a fire apparatus. This particular engine 257 had a cracked windshield the other day, and you guys may remember we ended up having to borrow a fire engine from the county of Madera. We purchased the last windshield available in the United States for this apparatus. So if we have that issue again, we won't even be able to get parts for it. Things like the door handles. I mean, there's small parts that are just no longer available. Based on its age, it's become less reliable. Replacement parts are becoming scarce or difficult to locate, and downtime can be a challenge for older apparatus. The city conducted an extensive review of its equipment based on age, miles, types of service, reliability, maintenance, and repair costs of equipment. Engine 257 ranked the worst in the fleet. Here's a schematic drawing of the proposed new Type 1 engine, which you can see is a little more modern. It has a 4-door cab, which is safer for the firefighters, and it's a little more ergonomically better for the working position of our firefighters. This is the newest fire engine for the city, which is engine 56 housed on Lake Street. So I just want to kind of show you an example that it's a very similar looking engine to the schematic you just saw. How much does a new fire engine cost? Well, cost of a new fire engine, the base price is about $775,000 for this proposed engine. What I'm recommending, if approved, is we do a prepaid option, which reduces the cost by almost $24,000. This does not include the cost of outfitting the equipment, and this is also not part of that request tonight. How would the city pay for it? Well, the city created a fire engine replacement program in fiscal year 1920 using Measure K revenue. $200,000 has been assigned annually for Measure K, and a fully equipped engine costs approximately $1 million. So if you see the chart on the right, you can see that we're at about that $800,000 mark. If we approve the engine tonight, or if you approve the engine tonight, we're at 395 days from delivery of the fire engine. And, it sounds like the prices are scarce, or parts are scarce even for new apparatus. So it is kind of a scary time. Typically, a fire apparatus manufacturer has 2 price increases a year. They're already at the 6th price increase, and they've held off on one of those price increase for us to see if we can make this deal happen with them. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a purchase agreement for a Rosenbauer Type 1 fire engine from Rosenbauer, South Dakota, under Sourcewell purchase agreement, approving amendment to the 21-22 adopted budget, approximately $752,000 for the purchase in the Measure K budget for the purchase of equipment. I'd be happy to answer any questions or take any recommendations from you.
Member Montes.
And I'm sorry if I missed it, Chief. Thank you for that presentation. So this is just for the purchase and the outfitting. Is that something that's already budgeted for, or that's going to come in another fiscal year?
So the purchasing would come this fiscal year, and the equipment will be coming out of the equipment replacement program for next year.
Okay, so in the 390 something days.
Yes.
Thank you.
Preparing for this purchase, Mr. Rodriguez, I believe that you planned ahead for us to be able to have the funds to be able to purchase this equipment.
Yes, Mayor, we absolutely did. A couple of years ago, when I arrived, Chief Watson and I sat down and we talked about what our plan was to begin to replace fire engines. And we quickly realized that we didn't have, in my humble opinion, a solid working plan. So what we did is we created a fire engine replacement program. And what we indicated is if we save $200,000 a year roughly, every 5 years, the city can purchase a new fire engine. We have 3 stations. Every 15 years, we're buying a new fire engine. And that's allowed us to save the money that we have to prepay this fire engine. And so I think a lot of credit goes to a lot of people, including Chief Watson, the city council, that's allowed us to start saving the money, and staff for having the confidence to make sure that we were pre-planning. And I think it's something that that the community should be proud of. We are using Measure K funds. So this is 100% Measure K funded. And the voters deserve a tremendous amount of credit for passing Measure K in 2016. That's allowing us to do this. And so it's not cheap. Chief Watson will tell you that that I spent a tremendous amount of time going back and forth with him. This is a big ticket item, but at the same time, it's much needed. And we began planning for it numerous years ago, and that's why we're bringing the item this evening. So thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Chief, the other option that was presented, the 771, was that financing the engine?
That was not financing. That was us paying on delivery of the apparatus. If we prepay, it saves obviously $23,000, which covers about 25% of the outfitting of the vehicle.
$23,000, but you won't get that for another 395 days, right?
Correct.
Okay. All righty. I wasn't sure if there was any financing options available. I know it costs the city a bit more money, but it's always good to have money on hand for any future equipment that's needed. Because now, once you deplete that account, you'd have to start over every year, correct?
Yes, that's why we came up with that $200,000. That way, when it was time to replace an apparatus, there was cash on hand available for that. But I mean, we're open to suggestions if council would like different direction.
At this time, I think you brought up a good point. I just wasn't sure if there was any financing options available. I know that some of the times financing can become pretty cheap nowadays, but I wasn't sure if that was something that was presented.
I don't see any more hands up. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor, we do not have any written public comment. Mark, do we have any callers on Zoom?
No callers on Zoom.
And no one in the public, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I will now ask for a motion.
Move to approve item D1 as presented.
Second.
We have multiples. Motion to approve item D1 by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilmember Gallegos. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Chief. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is going to be great for the citizens of Madera. They'll be proud of it. So thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to item D2, second reading. I believe, Mr. Rodriguez, you have this item?
I sure do, Mayor. Thank you very much. Members of the council, Arnoldo Rodriguez, City Manager. You just bear with me here a split second. I believe you can all see actually, this is the wrong presentation. I apologize. Okay, here we go. So items, and I apologize for this one. This says item A1. It's actually for the record, it's item D2. So item D2 and D3 are two separate items, but they're interlinked in that they both relate to cannabis this evening. However, I will go through the item D2. However, it's up to the council. It's council's prerogative. If you would like to try to take, you can't legally take action at the same time, but maybe back to back. But again, that's council's prerogative. So I will be walking through item D2 first and then D3. So item D2 would be the second reading regarding cannabis cultivation and the approval authority or the review body for cultivation and for vertical integration. Council may recall that last week on October the 28th, we had a special meeting on Thursday evening specific to this item. That item was at the direction of council during the October 20th meeting. So most ordinances, not all, require 2 public hearings or 2 public readings. This constitutes the second of the 2 readings. So very specifically, this is in regards to vertical integration, cultivation, distribution, manufacturing, and test labs. For purposes of this presentation, I'll collectively just refer to them as cultivation because to say all of those is a mouthful. So the existing language in the adopted ordinance that exists today is that the city manager and staff shall review and permit all types of applications in preparation and prepare a report for consideration by council. The proposed language is that the council shall act on social equity and standard retail or micro business applications, whereas city staff shall review the cultivation applications and would take action on those. With that being said, in the ordinance, there's language that an applicant can appeal staff's decision for consideration by council. At the end of the day, the council has ultimate decision-making authority on an appeal or on any other application. So simply wanted to put that on record. The second part to this, it's related. It just happens to be subsection H. So the previous one was subsection G. This would be subsection H of the existing municipal code. Currently, the council, so the existing language, council may approve or deny the final candidates for all cannabis business types. The proposed language is, again, council may approve or deny final candidates, again, relating to standard retail and micro businesses, whereas staff shall act on cultivation applications unless appealed. So council may recall this chart. It was initially presented to council on September the 1st. This is not the entire chart. What I attempted to do was highlight a couple of items here. The top row identifies the application type. The left-hand column identifies different steps in the process. So the key change in this ordinance is identified in a red bubble there where it currently reads city council. It's crossed off and it would be rephrased to read city staff. And that is the only change in the entire municipal code being proposed as part of this item. So with that being said, for council direction last week, staff is recommending that the council conduct a public hearing and waive the full reading and adopt an ordinance amending the Madera Municipal Code, specifically section 6-5.14, subsections G and H as prepared in your report. And with that, I'm not too sure if Hilda would like to clarify any items or if council would like to take action on this item or would like to go through the next item and then consider them not necessarily together, but for discussion purposes, potentially together. I'll defer to council.
Do we have any questions from my colleagues regarding this item? Do we have any public comment, Alicia?
Mayor, we have no written public comment. Mark, do we have any callers on Zoom?
No callers on Zoom.
And no one in the public, Mayor.
Alrighty. So I'm looking for a motion on item D2.
Mayor, move that we adopt D2 and waive full reading.
I second the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Montes and second by Councilmember Evans. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia?
No.
Motion passes with 5 yes votes and 1 no vote by Mayor Garcia.
Alrighty, we will now move on to item D3. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Item D3 is also relating to cannabis, and this is specific to Town and Country Park. Council may recall back on September 1st, city staff conducted the first reading of the draft ordinance. Subsequent to that, if memory serves me, I believe September the 15th, we had a second reading. At that meeting, council elected to continue the item. On October the 20th, council instructed staff to bring this item back to today's meeting. Therefore, staff agendized it, and that's why this item is before council this evening. So the second reading, again, is specific to cannabis cultivation relative to distance or proximity to Town and Country Park. So currently, cannabis businesses must be minimum if 600 feet away from sensitive uses. I've underlined the phrase sensitive uses that is defined by state statute, such as schools, parks, and daycare centers. This does not include daycare homes. Again, it's a daycare center. With that being said, though, local jurisdictions do have the option and may make exceptions to the 600-foot rule. I'm sorry, Alicia. It's not a shared screen. All right. Let me try that all over again.
Take your time, brother. We're ahead of schedule. Doing pretty good today.
Here we go. Mark, I believe we're good, right?
We are good.
Thank you, Mark. So, after staff initially reviewed the 600-foot rule, we noticed that large portions of the community of our city would not be eligible for cannabis related activities. And that created some concern among staff because we said we want to allow it, but if we strictly implement the 600-foot rule, it's going to create some challenges for our community. So with that, and so one of the negatives that could potentially lead to a concentration of cannabis related businesses in one particular neighborhood. And that obviously has the potential to potentially create other issues. And so the other item that it could potentially do is artificially increase land values, because if people know that they have to be concentrated, that oftentimes leads to an inflation of land values, thereby limiting the opportunities potentially for local property owners or for local businesses, I should say. So at the time, city staff and council agreed that we would exempt the downtown area, and there's a map specific to downtown, the Fresno River, because there's a trail along the Fresno River. We identified a couple of key parks: Rotary Park along Gateway, Courthouse Park, which happens to be in the heart of downtown, the Well Center because of its proximity to Yosemite and the commercial corridor, the Frank Burgon Center because of its proximity to B and C streets, the library, again, because of the downtown area, specifically Gateway, the fairgrounds, because it's adjacent to a large shopping center, and then the golf course. The golf course today doesn't have any real commercial activity, but again, it's for cultivation. And this is a map. So the bubble diagrams highlight those areas where someone could not have cannabis related businesses. And so, for example, this would be, this is St. Joachim's School. And so that's a very good example. You have Millview over here, and you have some other areas. So if you start really studying the map, it really begins to limit the areas where people can grow cannabis. However, with the exceptions, it really opened up potential areas. But at the same time, one thing that we were trying to do was that we were still attempting to protect neighborhoods, specifically schools, and again, daycare centers. And so what this ordinance would do is that it would add Town and Country Park to the exclusion list, very similar to what we did for Rotary Park, for the Fresno River, the golf course, and for Frank Burgon, and for like I'm missing one, and the library and Courthouse Park. And so if you take a look at specifically, here's Town and Country Park. So today, under the existing rules, you cannot have cannabis within 600 feet of Town and Country. However, with the exclusion, that would open it up. And that is literally the only item on that would be impacted by this. So with that being said, staff is recommending that council adopt the negative declaration prepared pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. And second of all, that you waive the full reading and adopt the ordinance amending the Madera Municipal Code relating to location and design of cannabis business relative to Lyons County Country Park. So with that being said, that concludes staff's presentation.
I just have one question. Could you go back to that prior screen? What is that? Close to the downtown area, you have a circle around a building there. A little higher to the left, a little bit to the left, right there. What is that?
St. Joachim's School.
Oh, okay. St. Joachim's. Okay. Any other questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Gallegos.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I am just going to give a comment that I had a lot of my constituents talk to me about this issue, and it's come to my attention that we exempted quite a few other parks in our city. So even though Town and Country backs up to my district, they feel if we do for one, we should do for all. So my vote will be in favor to exempt Town and Country Park. Tonight, that will be my vote will be yes. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. I know on the initial presentation of this amendment to the ordinance, there was quite a few comments coming from constituents in regards to the proximity of the park. I feel that, if we allow this amendment, there's nothing to say that they can't put a dispensary nearby as well. With the vertical integration, if they meet the requirements, and that therefore, I think that was the main concern that most of the constituents had. I don't know that they were aware of this was more of a cultivation, but again, with the requirements of the vertical integration, that certainly can be a possibility. This council has not discussed whether or not that would be something that we would do. So at this time, I'm not in favor of voting for approval on this particular item.
Councilmember Montes.
Yeah, I just want to put my comment out there too. So we did have the discussion and the intent was for the industrial use. It would take a lot of quality industrial land where we can have cultivation. And the 600-foot rule would detrimentally impact that portion of cannabis. You can put retail at any stage, actually just down the street. So I just wanted to clarify that the intent for me is because of the industrial use. So I think this is a good thing that we move forward, especially if we've done for other parks and other areas of the city. It's only fair that we do the same thing here. That's my comment.
Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make another comment real fast, chiming on Councilman Montez's. By allowing this in the other parks to have that exemption, I'm hoping that my fellow colleagues will hold true to some of those tax dollars to help those parks that are in desperate need. And with that cannabis tax money, we can help those parks look up to par, and they've been in dire need of some support in those areas. Thank you.
And I will chime in also that I approve of the staff's recommendation to approve this resolution here. I believe that we can use the industrial area to the south for cannabis uses. We can put it to good use, just as Councilwoman Gallegos said, that we can use some of these revenues to help our city in many different forms. Do we have any public comment on this issue, Alicia?
I do, Mayor. I have one email. It's from Kathy Great. Why was Town and Country Park chosen to be exempt as opposed to other areas, for example, east of the 99? Thank you and regards, Madera resident. Mark, do we have any callers on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Ramon, do you wish to speak on this? Step up to the podium, please.
Speaking again, Ramon Lopez. When this issue or when this idea was brought up at the Planning Commission, we had a big discussion at the time, and the big concern was that for this kind of businesses, cannabis, it's going to be kind of significantly easier to do a cannabis business that needs tobacco. For tobacco, there are so many restrictions, and apparently this is a little bit easier than tobacco. So I would really like the council to consider and make this, whatever this business is very sensitive. We don't want it close to the schools at all. We don't want it close to the parks. Thank you.
Do we have any further public comment? In that case, I will ask for a motion from my colleagues.
Mayor, may I clarify something? And maybe I
Absolutely.
misunderstood a couple of council members' comments, but I just want to clarify, the prior item you heard had to do with the vertical integration cultivation item. This item addresses all cannabis businesses. So this exemption that currently applies to numerous other parks, as articulated by Councilmember Gallegos, this proposed exemption would also apply to all cannabis businesses. And also in response to the prior comment from the resident planning commissioner, there are numerous requirements that cannabis businesses must abide by and comply with, both state and local, that are way beyond cigarettes and smoking.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for my colleagues?
Mr. Mayor, move to adopt D3 1 and 2 and waive full reading on
Second.
D3 2.
Motion to adopt D3 by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilmember Villegas. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
No.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas,
No.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes with 4 yes votes and 2 no votes by Councilmember Rodriguez and Mayor Pro Tem Villegas.
Thank you very much, Alicia. We will now move on to item D4. This is a second reading. Mr. Conte?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Good evening to you all. This presentation will be provided to you by our senior planner, John Thomas. And if we give him a further ado, an opportunity to present.
Thank you, Mr. Connie, Mr. Mayor, and members of council. Thank you for having me back. Share my screen here. So this is the second reading for Annexation 2021-01, which is the pre-zoning aspect. We heard about this item a couple of weeks ago towards the end of October. So we have a brief presentation and we have time for questions. So this is a proposal to annex property that would become part of the city. We have a map in just a second. This is the pre-zoning only. This is required prior to annexation, which is a LAFCO issue. And in this case, it would be pre-zoned plan development, plan unit development 4,500. So it's about 40 acres that's being proposed to be subdivided into 214 single family lots. There were 2 associated applications with this project, tentative subdivision map and precise plan, that were approved by Planning Commission in the middle of September. So this shows you where it is to the west of town along Cleveland Avenue. This is an area that's currently primarily agricultural, directly adjacent to city boundaries and existing city infrastructure. And here's a little closer view of it. So the annexation process requires actions by both the city and Madera County LAFCO. The pre-zoning is an action that's required as a precursor to submitting the application to LAFCO for annexation. So that application hasn't been made yet because council has not pre-zoned. State law requires that the proposed annexation must be consistent with both the city's general plan and the pre-zoning requested in this case. This particular site is located within the city's urban growth area and the city's sphere of influence. The planning boundary is outside of the city, as we know, but it is designated to become part of the city eventually. So the county currently has this area zoned agricultural rural exclusive, 20 acres. And as we mentioned, the proposed pre-zoning in this case is for plan unit development 4,500, which is covered under the city's zoning ordinance, which staff believes is consistent with the general plan. In terms of plan of services, the area proposed for the pre-zoning is adjacent existing city infrastructure, as I mentioned, and it is planned for development by the city's existing master sewer, water, and transportation circulation plans. In terms of CEQA, an initial study and mitigated negative declaration was prepared to talk about potential environmental impacts of the project. And through this process, it was determined that all potential impacts are either less than significant or could become that way with the implementation of mitigation measures as detailed in that document. And we circulated this publicly per state law. And in this case, that was from about the middle of August to the first week of September. In terms of the fiscal impact, this is approved. The applicant has submitted fees to cover the cost of processing the applications. They'd have to pay additional fees associated with processing the building and civil improvement plans, as well as other permits. They will pay development impact fees. And in this case, the 214 homes will be part of the Community Facilities District 2005-01, which covers police, fire, parks, and storm drainage. So staff is recommending the approval of this pre-zone request, as well as adopt a resolution adopting the CEQA document, the MND, and the associated MMRP. And this document covers all three applications that are associated with it. But this tonight is just the pre-zone, as we mentioned. And so the second recommendation would be that the council adopt an ordinance adopting the pre-zone request associated with the annexation project. That concludes my presentation, and staff is certainly available for questions. And I think we might have the applicant's representative as well.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, are there any public comments?
Mayor, I have no written public comment. Mark, do we have any callers on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
I will look to my council members for action.
So move to approve D4 as presented.
Did you see something, Mr. Rodriguez?
Oh, no, I wasn't sure. Were you looking to make a comment? Okay.
Second.
Short and sweet and simple. So who's the first? Councilmember Gallegos, motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Montes. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
you're very welcome.
Thank
We
you.
will now move on to item D5.
Do we want to go to the
Public hearing.
Is that,
do you want to go to public hearing at 7? Because we have to start the other one at 7.
as long as we can finish up by 7, I think we'll be good. Mr. Forster.
7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. We're having a discussion regarding the community block grant consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, which is called the CAPER, and the financial summary. I have Michelle Avalos, who's going to make the presentation today.
Yes, I just wanted to make a note. We are going to have a public hearing on our redistricting for the city.
Right.
And that'll be at 7. So I might have to interrupt you, and I apologize for that, but let's move forward because we have some time before 7.
We'll have Michelle speak fast.
I can be quick.
All right, Michelle. Do you have the presentation available?
Screen here.
I've got it up if you want me to share my screen.
It should be up. Can you see it?
No.
Not yet. Up there we go.
Can you see the presentation?
We see your main window screen.
Hope it switched windows here. Oh no. Let me do that again. There we go. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. What is the CAPER? It's an annual housing and urban development requirement progress report from previous year action plan. It requires citizen participation. Staff published a hearing notice, inviting written comments and inviting the public to the public hearing. It provides HUD with data regarding the individual served, the activities performed from this previous year's action plan, and what the outcomes were achieved. So since 2014, 2015, we had a total balance of $1.8 million. And you can see the table here with the remaining amounts from the previous years of program years. As of fiscal year 1920, the city has drawn down $648,599 through June 30th, 2020. So this reporting period is through June 30th, 2020. Some major accomplishments during this time frame: the Community Action Partnership of Madera County, Fresno Madera Continuum of Care. In 2019, there was a homeless point in time count. At that time in 2019, there was 2,069 homeless people counted. In 2020, there was an increase of 612 homeless persons and an increase of 29.6%. There was 138 households and 26 businesses that were assisted with rental assistance. CDBG funds also supported parks senior meal programs to ensure that seniors during the pandemic of the shutdown, they were able to get nutritious meals. So there was 460 unduplicated individuals served. Madera Coalition for Community Justice, there was a total of 35 young people served during this time frame. Doors of Hope Pregnancy Care Center served 202 clients, and they distributed 175,000 diapers during this time frame. Pequeños Empresarios, during this year, 7 children tested higher on objectives from when they first entered the program, introducing them into life-enhancing skills encompassing nutrition, budgeting, manners, and banking. Madera Rescue Mission, they were able to serve 100 unduplicated individuals. Habitat for Humanity, there was 20 households that were assisted also during this time. Some major challenges that we faced within this last year was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. Continued staff changes did have an impact on our CDBG program. So HUD's evaluation, they consider the city's challenges and addressing the CONFUN priorities. This is how they evaluate the positive performance outcomes, and also evaluating the city's timeliness based on reimbursements from CDBG expenses. Also evaluates submittal of action plans and capers as required and on-time performances. So the next steps was a public hearing. The city at this time did not receive any public comments regarding the caper during the 15-day review, and the comment period ended on 10/10/21. So staff recommends council adopt a resolution to approve a submission of the 2021 caper and financial summary report to HUD as of tomorrow. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from my colleagues? Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the report and the information, but I was just wondering if how we could get pictures of some of these accomplishments, because a picture says 1,000 words. And the words are great to hear, but seeing the faces and staff out there doing the things that they're doing would be great appreciated for, I think, the dais up here. So if somehow we can get pictures out to us or on our website, just telling our story in a positive way, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have any further comments from my colleagues? Do we have any public comments from the public, Alicia?
Mayor, I have no written public comment. Mark, anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
I will ask for a motion on item D5 from my colleagues.
Mayor, we approve item D5.
Second.
Motion to approve item D5 by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilmember Villegas. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with 5 yes votes, 6 yes votes, sorry.
And right on time, it's 7 o'clock.
Good job, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Told you I'd be fast.
Thank you very much for that. We will now go on to our public hearing, item C1. Alicia, do you have this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have Joanna Jin with BB&K presenting this evening's public hearing item C1. It's the second public hearing item. Joanna?
Hi, thank you, and good evening, Council. I am here this evening for the second of the 4 required public hearings in the redistricting process. And you may already be familiar with some of this content that I'll be about to I will share with you, but this is also for the benefit of members of the public who may not be familiar with this process. So I will actually go through the timelines and deadlines for the 2021 redistricting process at the end. And as you are already familiar, there are 6 districts within the city, and the last time that the city went through the redistricting process was in 2011. And with the 2020 census data that has just come out, we are currently going through the redistricting process right now. As previously mentioned, for districts 1, 3, and 5, the elections will be held for those districts next November. And for districts 2, 4, and 6, the next election cycle will be in November of 2024. So we are currently having the second public hearing, as I mentioned, which is the pre-draft hearing phase. And that is because we have not yet drawn the maps, and the first maps will come out at the 3rd public hearing. The deadline for the draft maps to be submitted by the public is December 22nd. And then the draft maps will be released. And then there will be 2 other public hearings, one in January and one in February of next year. And then assuming that all goes well, there will be the adoption of the map at the 4th public hearing. However, if additional time is required, we can have another public hearing. And then we had also discussed the requirements that districts be of equal population under the Federal Voting Rights Act, and that no racial gerrymandering is allowed. So that means you can't intentionally draw districts that undermine the rights of minority voters to elect a candidate of their choice. We'd also talked about requirements under the California Fair Maps Act that districts be geographically contiguous, that is, they share a common boundary, that neighborhoods stay together, that there be identifiable and understandable boundaries or landmarks such as roads, and that the districts also be geographically compact. Other principles include minimizing voter shifting to different election years. So if they commonly vote in a certain year, then they stay on that 4-year cycle rather than shift to a different cycle. You also want to respect the voters' choices and promote continuity in office of current electeds. You also want to take into account future population growth and preserve the existing core of districts. So over here, we have a map of all the existing districts in the city, and the total population of the city for all 6 districts is 65,954. So the ideal population size for each district, if each district were to have the same population, would be 10,992. And you're going to hear that number come up several times tonight. So District 1 is in green over here, and that has a current population of 11,371. District 2 in purple has a population of 11,964. District 3 in pink, which has the 99 running through the middle of it, has a current population of 9,700. District 4 to the northeast has a current population of 10,640. District 5 in orange has a population of 9,382. And of course, there's also that small sliver to the north that jumps the Fresno River that's also included in District 5. And then District 6 is in yellow here. It also has a 99 running through it, and it has a current population of 12,984. So last time we had talked about this chart over here, and this slide includes data with the 2020 census data overlaid onto your existing boundaries. So column 1 is the district number. Column 2 is the total population for each of the 6 districts. And then there is the total population for the city and the ideal mean or average for each district, which again is that 10,992 magic number that I was talking about. The raw deviation is the third column, and that is how far off is the district population from the ideal mean of 10,992. So that's just the actual numbers. And then the percentage deviation in the fourth column just translates that raw deviation into a percentage. And again, anything under or has a greater deviation of 10% is impermissible. So if you see districts 3, 5, and 6, those definitely have to be adjusted. So just going back to that on the map, the reason for that is you have District 6 here that has the largest population size for the whole city of 12,897. And then you also have Districts 5 in orange and District 3 that also has a deviation that's greater than 10%. And so District 5 actually has the lowest population in the city, and that's just hovering above 9,300. And District 3 also has a population in the 9,000 range as well. And so those will also have to be adjusted. So at the last public hearing, there was a question of, well, what numbers are you really trying to adjust here? And you're really trying to adjust the second column, the total population, and the fourth column, which is a percentage deviation. You want the numbers in districts, in each district, frankly, to be 10,992. And the closer it gets to that number, the raw deviation is going to also drop as well. And then you'll also have a corresponding change in the percentage deviation. So the closer you get to that, it'll definitely bring it in line with going towards 0%. So the next 3 columns, or the 3 columns to the right, paint a different picture. CVAP stands for Citizens of Voting Age Population. So the 5th column here refers to all the individuals in your district that are eligible to vote. And then over here, you have your Latino population, and that's just of any age. And then the last column is going to be your CVAP for the Hispanic population. And what I found very interesting too is that when you take the Hispanic voting population and you look at that in comparison to the total voting age population, it provides a very interesting picture. So for District 1, what that means is that 51% of your voting age population is Hispanic. And so again, that's this district here. District 2, that's 55%. District 3, that's 72%. District 4, that's 69%. District 5, that is 65%. And District 6, that is 72%. So what that really means is that you don't really have to worry about diluting the minority vote, because for every district right now, the Hispanic voting age population accounts for more than 50%. So your only concern is really about making sure that you are adjusting the numbers in column 2, or the total population, to be as close as possible to 10,992. And it's unlikely that there will be any impact at all that would affect or dilute the minority vote, because it is predominantly Hispanic. Okay, so going over to eminent considerations are things that are non-negotiable. We talked about equal population, so one person, one vote, which means that everyone has essentially equal weight when it comes to the ballot box. And then also ensuring that there's a racial minority voice, as mentioned. There's no issue here. Then you would also want to ensure that the districts are geographically contiguous, again, having a common border, and that everything is measured objectively, which just simply means that it's not subjective. So important considerations to keep in mind too kind of relates to the communities of interest and what you want your neighborhoods to look like. So again, going back to the physical boundaries, you have natural or artificial barriers, you have roadways, rivers, and railways. So again, thinking about, maybe Highway 99 or Highway 145 or the Fresno River, and just very kind of natural boundaries or roads that would kind of mark everything out. Then you also have parks, schools, and other landmarks. And you want to keep everything geographically compact. And then there's also political boundaries as well. So school attendance and how everything overlays into federal, state, and county divisions, as well as the special district boundaries. However, you can't consider incumbent residents or political affiliations. So that goes kind of towards the gerrymandering issue, which is prohibited. So this public hearing, again, is to kind of focus on the issues of what is your neighborhood and what are its boundaries? What do you want your neighborhoods to look like? What are other notable areas in the city and what are their boundaries? And we also want to inform the public and how they can participate in the redistricting process. So I can address any questions about what's next as well following the presentation. And then after tonight's hearing, we will begin to draw maps for consideration for the third public hearing in January. So what we look to when we are drawing the maps, of course, is the demographic data, the census data, staff expertise, and public input that we are receiving from this public hearing. So timeline and next steps. I had previously mentioned that the prisoner adjusted census data was released and factored in. There will be 2 additional public hearings in January and February before council votes on a final map. And that final map must be submitted to the county registrar no later than April 17th of next year. So the findings from the data so far, again, have shown that we have a total deviation that is above the 10% acceptable range at 31.9%. And of course, that was taking the difference between of the deviations between District 5 and District 6. And so we want to adjust the deviations for all the districts, but again, focusing on districts 3, 5, and 6. The findings also show that all 6 districts are either at or above the minority majority population when considering the Hispanic CVAP against the total CVAP. So again, I mentioned that for all districts, that was above 50%. So there are no constitutional issues to worry about. And then again, the focus is just readjusting for population balance and making sure that you get as close to 10,992 per district. So the timeline and the next steps, we are at our second public hearing tonight. And then on November 8th, which is next Monday, the mapping kits will be released to the public. And then we will begin preparing the draft maps using the census data. There are also 2 community workshops for public outreach that will be held. Both of those will occur on the weekends, and one will occur in the morning and one in the afternoon. So the first one will be at the John Wells Youth Center from 10 to 11:30 a.m. on December 4th, which is Saturday. And then the members of the public can, receive input on that about the map process, and then they can submit their final maps by December 22nd. And then we will publish the draft maps on the city website on December 29th. And then on January 5th, we will have our 3rd public hearing, and there will be maps that will be released. So that'll be very helpful and important for getting public input on the draft maps. And then on January 16th, there will be the 2nd community workshop at the Pan Am Community Center from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. And that'll be on a Sunday. And then on February 2nd, there will be the 4th public hearing to introduce the ordinance that approving the final map. And so hopefully that will be, the map will be approved at that time. But again, if there are any revisions, there will be time to have another public hearing before the deadline of April 17th. And then after that, there's the November 22nd election. And that concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you again for that presentation. So question, I've been through this years back, and I don't know if technology has changed, but with the latest census information, will you be providing us some type of technology that allows us to move boundaries and population to balance out those maps when we see those draft maps presented to the council?
Yes, there will be both an interactive mapping tool that will be available on the city's redistricting webpage, as well as a paper version too, if it's easier for individuals to just print and draw their own maps.
Awesome, thank you. And that way, and again, this is interactive for the public as well, right?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gallegos.
So Ms. Jenna, I think this is just a piggyback on Councilman Rodriguez. So on November 8th, the mapping kits released to the public. Is that just all virtual? What contains that mapping kit?
Yes. So it will be just as there's 2 options. One, there is a link to an interactive map system where they can draw their maps, and then they can go ahead and submit it online, and that'll just directly come to us when they submit. The other option is for them to click and download a paper copy that they could also draw and then just submit when they're ready and upload.
So if we have community members that don't have access to technology, do we have a possibility they just contact our clerk and get copies from her?
Yes, and we can coordinate that as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember Montes.
Yeah, I just had a question regarding geography. It didn't seem like there was a lot of issues with the minorities and voting age population, but you did mention one little area, I think in District 5, where you had the area that kind of jutted out across, what is that, Tozer? Were there any other areas that were of concern regarding the geography of not making sense?
No, I think that was the only one where it kind of seemed to jump over the river, and there was also a break, so it wasn't completely contiguous.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That little sliver makes no sense. Councilwoman Evans.
Yes, I am in District 4, and that little piece right there that goes into District 5. So once the redistricting occurs, will that be brought into District 4, or it will remain the same as it is, or the boundary lines will change, or what's going to happen?
I imagine that that will be a big consideration if you're trying to keep everything contiguous, is that it may make more sense, and compact as well, is for everything to shift. So it's a kind of a clean line, and that would go away, and maybe there would be more population to be cleaned. So let's see. District 4 has 10,640 right now, and the ideal mean again is 10,992. So ideally there would be a gain of a few hundred. So where that comes, it might just come from shifting the boundaries over towards the west or to the south in some way. But again, knowing that, you know, part of it is that you have the river running through there. So it would again most likely go west or south.
Okay, thank you very much.
In reality, there's about 30 houses, I believe, is what we're talking about. It's not a whole lot. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, again, Jen, can you speak on behalf of the experience that you had with the public input with respects to this this exercise of mapping? I mean, do you see a big outcome? I mean, do you see a lot of folks coming out and participating in this redistricting process?
I think, you know, I'm very curious to see how that will come, and it kind of always, you know, spans like and varies based on participation. But I do think that having public outreach too and community workshops are good. I have seen more attendance, especially when we have very active community local groups that are already involved. You will probably see them come out as well. And I also think that people are very naturally curious too about, you know, redistricting and what their community is. So hopefully with the 2 additional community workshops that will, you know, bring in some more input. And there are also ways to kind of reach out to the public to inform them of those opportunities to participate as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I know with technology that makes a lot easier to try to balance those deviations that we're off by. I'm just curious as to how that would happen with actual maps, and if folks understand the percentage that has to be balanced in there. So I too am curious to see how that plays out. But certainly the additional workshops will certainly bring out more folks from the public to participate. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Hilda, did you have something you wanted to add?
Minimal, Mayor, just to piggyback on what she has said, what Ms. Jen has said, it does vary from community to community. Some communities don't do too much outreach and they get a lot of community output, and vice versa. Some communities do everything by the book, do all the outreach possible, and there is no community input. And what I've foreseen, and just from reading what's going on throughout the state, is that sometimes it's not until the recommended maps come out that there may be some members of the community that feel that there's some egregious errors in those maps. And so that's when you you see more community input and more community members showing up to the 4th hearing.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Yes, Ms. Jen, just one last question. The map that they're going to be able to manipulate online, does it say the actual districts, numbers, populations when they're manipulating? They know if they move this line, they're losing 10. of the population people? And then does that show that?
Yes, I believe it shows that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been involved in the redistricting plan for Madera County. And so I'm very impressed with the technology and the consulting firms coming in and helping develop the maps. So this is a once in a lifetime deal. It's every 10 years. And what we do here after we complete this process in the city council will affect elections for quite a while. And they won't change possibly until the next census, which will be 10 years from now. So it's very important work. It's not a lot of people are aware or are involved, but you're looking at school districts, Madera Unified School District, the county, the city, all elections. So this is very important work. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor, I do not have any written public comment, but we do have a caller on Zoom.
Alrighty. Caller, can you hear?
Caller with the last four digits of 7202, please unmute and hit *6 on your phone.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a concerned citizen of Madera. I am calling to express my concern about the redistricting of the districts. Yesterday, we got a peek into Mayor Garcia's ideas for the redistricting. He showed up with a consultant and a PowerPoint that completely twisted the Fair Maps Act to fit his political agenda. He made it about race, saying that we need to completely redraw the maps to benefit the Hispanic community. I urge you all to read the bill yourself, and you will see it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with population and existing communities. Could you imagine if someone came in and did a PowerPoint saying that we need to cater the districts to the white people? Because technically they are the minority in Madera. Like Mayor Garcia's representative said yesterday, Madera is 60% Hispanic. In my opinion, race should have nothing to do with it. We are all Americans, and that is all that matters. City Council, I ask you to watch this meeting yesterday, read the act for yourself, and consider a censor for Mayor Garcia for trying to start a race war between the citizens of Madera. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there any more comments from the public?
No more public comment.
And I do.
Thank you again from Ramon Lopez. It's not that I like to come in to speak all the time. I don't like to speak, but I see that there is nobody speaking. So I want to say that I'm really impressed with this presentation. So it really shows that the city is working and doing a good job in redistricting. When I was looking at the district maps, I don't really see a big issue. I like the districts the way they are. I believe that we just need to adjust them mainly for the number that we need, the 10,000 plus or minus. But one of the things that I would like to see is like 5 years from now, try to redistrict it again, like sometimes other communities have done it. Let's go to the planning department. They really know what is coming up. They really know the population that is coming. It depends in the housing, how many houses, how many apartments are coming. So try to consider those things. So to make sure that we do a good job in redistricting. And just something that I was a little bit surprised that Mayor Garcia said that the county is doing a good job with the districts, with the redistricting. When I went to one of the hearings, basically it was really, really ugly. I believe after that, maybe they are doing a good job, and hopefully they will finish with a good job too soon. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Mayor, I received one written public comment regarding redistricting. This is from Kathy Great. How are city council members making their constituents aware, and especially what is Mayor doing to make District 5 aware given lack of council person? Thank you. That would conclude the.
That'll conclude the public comment.
Yes.
Okay, we will close public comment. I believe we're not really taking action here. We're just gonna, these are our open workshops, Mr. Rodriguez. Correct? So we're not gonna take action as far as a motion or. to that
No
effect.
action, Mayor.
Okay. Okay. All right, then we will conclude this item. And we will go back to administrative reports, item E1. Mr. Rodriguez? Thank you very much, Ms. Chin. Thank you very much for that report.
Thank you.
Good evening, council. The item before you this evening is staff is seeking direction on remote city council meetings under the new Brown Act requirements of Assembly Bill 361. Council may recall at your October the 6th meeting, City Attorney Montoya provided council with an overview of the new regulations permitted under Assembly Bill 361 versus the Brown Act. At that meeting, council elected to meet in person, in public, and under the provisions of AB 361, council has authority or discretion every 30 days to reconsider. That's the only reason this item is before council this evening. I do have a presentation that I can walk through. However, I believe council spent a considerable amount of time on this item on October the 6th. And at this point, staff is simply seeking direction. And we obviously have our city attorney here that can provide or clarify any items that council may have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Arnoldo, this item can be brought every 30 days, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I mean, because at this time, it seems like the council had already given direction, but it's a good thing to bring this back every 30 days. So that in a case where some public health concern comes up, then we have this item to take action on every 30 days. So thank you. I just want to confirm that this is something you'll be bringing back every 30 days, and then this council has the authority to take action on that as well.
That is correct, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Right.
As an alternative, though, staff does not have to agendize this item every 30 days. It's the prerogative of the council. Would I be correct in saying that?
That's correct. It's really, if you decide not to go by 361, which you decided not to, there is no legal requirement to consider this matter every 30 days. However, it is your option to do so if you think it's a good idea to do that.
And to that point, I would just say that during this time last year, we did experience a high number of cases that were ended up in hospitalizations going towards the holidays. Not to say that that'll happen again, but it's always good to have this here in case something like that does occur and we get notification from the public health director that we may be seeing a spike in cases. So I, for one, would like to see it come back every 30 days so that we have discretion whether we want to pursue a teleconference or not. But I'm still in favor of meeting in person. Again, with the option of exercising that if we need to.
Any further comments from my colleagues? Do we have any public comment, Alicia?
Mayor, I have no written public comment. Mark, do we have any callers?
There's no one on Zoom.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Councilmember Montes.
My suggestion would be, I mean, it's good that we can talk about it, but would there be any trigger that we can say, if the public health department recommends to bringing it back, then we can take action? Because I think that would be better rather than having it and discussing it every time and either not taking action.
We can most definitely do that. The only thing that I'd probably want to speak with Public Health Director Sarah Boss to identify some thresholds in terms of what that looks like. But again, that's council's prerogative. Whatever direction council provides, we'll follow up on that.
Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I love seeing the faces out there in person. Thank you for coming and spending your evening with us and my colleagues being here at the dais. With that, Hilda, do you want a motion for this?
It's really direction this evening unless council would like to implement AB 361. Okay. And then at that point, we would recommend that council adopt the resolution With that being said, though, if council would like to continue in-person meetings like we're doing kind of this evening, no action is required. We can simply take some direction that will continue and we'll simply continue. Would that be appropriate, City Attorney?
It's council's prerogative to adopt a motion or not to. As far as bringing the matter back every 30 days, it would be helpful for your city manager to know if the majority wants the item brought back or just leave it to his discretion.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
So to decide whether we want to direct or not, questions for legal counsel would be, if in case something was brought up by the public health director, can we then do a special meeting to execute this resolution in a timely manner?
Yes, AB 361 resolutions, whether they're initial or subsequent, can be adopted at special meetings.
Okay. So with that, then I would say that in any case that we do have a public health concern, then this council would then execute a special meeting to execute that AB 361. I'm not sure if that would be something that my colleagues would be in favor of.
I just wanted to make a statement if no one else is going to be commenting on this. We do have a public health crisis right now. Our hospitals are full. We just had some folks pass away this week that I know personally. And so for me, it would be good to have us here at the dais, but I would like to see the public contribute their opinions on Zoom and also keep the staff out of here to protect their health also. That would be my preference. So if there's going to be a motion made, then I'll agree, but I will vote against that of having in person and having the public here in our building. And that's just to protect the folks. And that's my opinion. Mr. Montes?
I'd be in favor of moving forward as we are. The public has discretion to come or not. Staff also can participate remotely, but it's the council that really has to be here. And I think this accomplishes what you said. The public can come if they choose to, and they can also participate remotely if they choose to. So I think we just move forward with what we have and give our manager discretion
I agree.
to come back if there is another warning from Public Health Department.
So at this time, staff is working from remotely, correct?
Correct, Mayor. So currently within the council chambers, we have city attorney, city clerk, myself. We have Officer Silas here this evening and our police chief, Lawson's. Besides that, all other department heads and staff are either in their office or at home, and they are on Zoom.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Well, it was
We
more
just
of a
need direction.
Direction. So there, my direction, I think, was then amended by.
No. What your direction
No,
was.
I do like the fact that I would give our city manager discretion to bring that back.
Why don't you make it as a motion so that we know what the majority is?
So then I would move that I give our city manager discretion of bringing the item before us if we do have a public outcry from the public health director or something with that pandemic.
That motion by Mr. Rodriguez.
Second.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Montes. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Oh, yeah.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Montes.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
No.
Motion passes with 5 yes votes and 1 no vote by Mayor Garcia.
Thank you. We will now move on to item F, council member reports, announcements, and future agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies, and at public events to request updates, to initiate future agenda items, and to take action on matters initiated under this section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take action only on items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for action. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just want to do a shout out to our community, to our business community, to our volunteers that were out there. Between Tuesday and Sunday, we had over 22 events happening in this community, and our people got out, our children got out, everybody was safe. I would like to thank all of those that were part of that, and our staff that went out there and also helped patrol. Our fire trucks are out there, our police are out there, our other directors have been around there. I saw council members out and about. So I think it was very healthy for our community and a step forward to some type of normalcy, even though we are at still a state of concern. It was a blessing to see everyone out and about these last few days. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I just want to say thank you to the audience that's out here. I know that you guys have taken a big step in coming out. Some of you just listening to the council and others going out to the dais and making your public comments. So thank you much. I also want to thank or congratulate at this point. I'm not sure if it's a certification yet, but I know that in our audience, we have one of the candidates that ran. So we don't know what the results are yet, but it seems like it's there. So we have Ms. Elsa Mejia here. So I just wanted to shout out to you and your team. With that, those are my comments. I know there's always something that I'm missing.
We can come back to you.
Mr. Montes, nice to see you again. So.
And with that, the second Mr. Montes.
Yeah, so I also would like to thank the community and staff, the fellow council members that went out. There was a lot of trunk or treat events and things for the community. I believe everybody, I don't know how many pounds of candy I have now. Everybody went out to those, didn't come to my house and get candy for trick or treating. So thank you everybody for that. I'm gonna gain a few pounds. And regarding our special election, I would like to thank both candidates for putting themselves out there. We all know that it's not easy to do so. It's a lot of hard work. It's very impactful on your family, on your mental health at times. But thank you for doing that to both candidates. You really did engage the community and gave the community an opportunity to come out and learn more. That's how I got involved with politics, just getting people more engaged and involved in the process. So thank you for what you guys have done. And thank you, Ms. Mia. And I think congratulations is more, I believe. Maybe I'm premature. But those are my comments.
We'll talk to Rebecca.
We'll talk to Rebecca, yeah.
Councilwoman Evans.
Yes, good afternoon. And I would like to thank everyone for coming out, to the staff. Thank you to my colleagues. It's so nice to see everyone sitting here in black and blue today. Very good. Also to both candidates, I just give a shout out to both of you. Congratulations to Ms. Mejia. I checked the numbers right before we came in, so congratulations to you. To our chief sitting back there, boy, thank you very much. Also to the Officer Dan Foss, thank you for everything yesterday. And to Keith and Arnaldo, thank you for Adele Street. I don't know, Mr. Councilman Montes, have you seen Adele yet? The way they're
Not had an opportunity. I
you
need
get
to
it
get
up,
out there.
man. They're working on it. It looks very good. I'm so very pleased. And to everyone, thank you very much. On Wednesday, I will be at James Monroe Elementary, and my program will start where we'll have Crunch with the Councilwoman. I have 7 young people that will be there with me, and I will be bringing lunch to them. So they'll be receiving McDonald's on Wednesday. So that's a good thing. So
Young.
And
She said
one.
young.
Plus one.
oh, +1. No, you're not. You're too old. No. Only to 6th grade. You make it? No. Okay. But anyway, thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I pass the baton.
All right. Councilmember Villegas.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I saw that during the weekend about Halloween, and I saw all these events, so that's great. I saw many people, many children, especially children, they were happy. So I would say thank you for this, all these events around the community during the weekend, and that was good. Hopefully we can just keep on going keep on going this way and be in a healthy way for the community, for everybody. So forget about COVID, no more. We will be healthy, all the way from top to bottom. And that's my wishes, and thank you very much.
Thank you. As far as myself, I participated in two particular events that I'm particularly proud of. One was organized by Karina Orozio. She organized a Dia de los Muertos event at Courthouse Park. It was really well attended. I had the pleasure of being a sponsor of the event along with my colleague Leticia Gonzalez from the Board of Supervisors. And it was well attended. A lot of people, they had excellent tamales. Somebody was selling tamales there. It was really, really good. And the other one was it was a pleasure to attend the Madera Police Department. They had a haunted command post. And you should have seen some of these kids come screaming out of there. You would go in one door and come out the other. Well, some of them just went in that one door and then came right back out on that very same front door. So it was a lot of fun. It was a really good event for the community. So I want to thank you, Chief, and on your staff for having that event. It was really, really well. It was really put together. All righty. So moving on. We will now be going into closed session. I want to thank all of you that have been in attendance tonight. This is not the end of the meeting, but we will be entering into closed session. So Hilda, could you make the announcement?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. G1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation under Government Code 54956.9 D2, workers' compensation matter, Tom Burns, one claim. G2, conference with labor negotiators under Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representative Armando Rodriguez, employee group, mid-management employee group, unrepresented employees, police chief, city engineer, director of human resources, information services manager, chief building official, and planning manager.
Thank you very much and good evening. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Convene the Madera City Council open session. It is now 8:44. Hilda, would you report out?
Thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session. All members were present and there is no reportable action.
Thank you very much. I hereby adjourn this meeting. It is now 8:45 and I want to thank everyone for their participation. Thank you very much and have a good night.